Nicholas's first year in England. Nicholas had dreamed about studying abroad for many years. Growing up in Lyon, France, he loved reading books about history, different cultures, and famous civilizations. When he received an offer to study history at a university in England, he could hardly believe it. It was the first time he would live outside France. It was also the first time he would spend such a long period away from his family and friends. Although he felt nervous, he was mostly excited. He imagined beautiful university buildings, interesting lectures, and new friendships. On a rainy September morning, Nicholas arrived in England with 2 suitcases and a backpack. As he left the airport, he immediately noticed some differences. The first surprise was the weather. People were not joking, he thought. It really does rain a lot here. Back in France, he was used to warmer and sunnier days. In England, the sky seemed grey most of the time. However, after a few weeks, he became accustomed to it. His second surprise was the language. Nicholas spoke English very well. He had studied it for many years and usually received excellent grades at school. He could read books, write essays, and understand films without much difficulty. However, real life was different. During his first week, a shop assistant asked him a question. Nicholas smiled politely but understood almost nothing. The woman spoke very quickly and used expressions he had never learned in class. Later that day, he met some local students. One of them said, "You all right?" Nicholas immediately started explaining that he was fine and not sick. The students laughed kindly and explained that it was simply a common greeting. That was the moment Nicholas realized that knowing English grammar was not the same as understanding everyday English. Over the following months, he discovered many new expressions, slang words, and regional accents. Some students came from northern England, others from London, Liverpool, Manchester, or Scotland. At first, certain accents seemed impossible to understand. One evening, after speaking with a Scottish student for 10 minutes, Nicholas secretly wondered whether they were both speaking the same language. Fortunately, people were patient and friendly. Whenever he did not understand something, they repeated it more slowly. Little by little, his listening skills improved. Food was another adventure. Before arriving in England, Nicholas had heard many jokes about British food. Some people told him it was boring, others said it was terrible. He quickly discovered that reality is more complicated. He enjoyed fish and chips, especially after long days at university. He also became a fan of English breakfast, although he found it much heavier than a typical French breakfast. One thing he never expected was the popularity of international food. Near the university campus, there were Indian restaurants, Turkish cafes, Chinese takeaways, Italian pizzerias, and many other options. Sometimes he felt that he could travel around the world simply by walking through the city centre. His university classes were equally international. On the first day of his history course, the professor asked students to introduce themselves. Nicholas was surprised by the diversity in the room. There was Anna from Hungary, who loved medieval history. There was Elif from Turkey, who was interested in archaeology. There were 2 students from Germany named Lucas and Sophie. There was a student from Spain, another from Poland, one from Nigeria, and several students from different parts of the United Kingdom. At first, Nicholas thought it would be difficult to become friends with people from so many different backgrounds. Instead, he discovered the opposite. Everyone was curious about one another. During lunch breaks, students often discussed traditions, holidays, food, and customs from their home countries. One day, Anna explained Hungarian festivals. The next day, Elif talked about Turkish tea culture. Another time, Lucas described German Christmas markets. Nicholas enjoyed sharing stories about France as well. His classmates often asked him about French food, French history, and life in Lyon. These conversations became one of his favorite parts of university life. The diversity of the class also improved his understanding of history. When students discussed historical events, they often had different perspectives depending on where they came from. Nicholas realized that history was not only about dates and facts, it was also about understanding how different societies remembered and interpreted the past. This made classroom discussions much more interesting. Outside class, university life offered many opportunities. Nicolas joined the History Society, attended public lectures, and participated in cultural events organised by international students. One evening, he attended an international food festival on campus. Students prepared traditional dishes from their countries and shared them with visitors. Nicolas tasted foods he had never tried before. Some dishes were delicious, others were unusual. A few were so spicy that he immediately needed a glass of water. Nevertheless, he loved the experience. As the months passed, England began to feel less foreign. He learned how to understand different accents. He discovered his favourite cafes. He found shortcuts around the city. He made friends from several countries. Most importantly, he became more independent. Living abroad was not always easy. Sometimes he missed his family. Sometimes he missed speaking French every day. Sometimes he felt tired after spending hours communicating in a second language. But every challenge helped him grow. By the end of his first year, Nicolas looked back and smiled. He remembered his confusion when people greeted him with, "You all right?" He remembered getting lost during his first week. He remembered struggling to understand certain accents. Now those moments seemed funny. Studying in England had given him much more than a university degree. It had taught him confidence. It had taught him adaptability. It had introduced him to people from different cultures and backgrounds. Most of all, it had shown him that the world was larger, more diverse, and more interesting than he had ever imagined. As he walked across campus on a sunny afternoon, a rare but welcome English sunny afternoon, he felt grateful for the decision he had made. His adventure had only just begun, and he was to discover what the future would bring. Want more stories like this? Subscribe and stay tuned.